Hey guys. Okay, in this video, I want to talk coaching versus therapy. Why I chose the path I did, what I have to offer as a coach for you, and where we'll put the roadblocks up and send you on your road down to a therapist. Okay, so I actually went back to school in my 40s to become a therapist. It was always a dream of mine. I remember in high school, all the college applications I sent in were to be a social worker. And if I did not get into the military academy that I attended, that's what I was going to do. It was like one or the other. I was either going to be a singing social worker because I wanted to be a vocalist, or I was going to be a military officer. Well, wouldn't you know, that academy accepted me. I don't know if it was their best decision ever, but my dreams of becoming a therapist were put on hold for a couple decades. In my 40s, the opportunity presented itself for me to go back to school and pursue what I always thought was my dream, was to become a therapist. And so that's what I did. I went to school at night, and I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and so a CMHC. And a part of that program, a big part of that program, obviously, is clinical work. And so it's hundreds and hundreds of hours in the field where you're working in a clinical setting. And so I split my years. Half of the time I spent in a private practice under a doctor's license. So the doctor, we would take in patients, we would assess them, we would diagnose them, we would bill insurance, and it's kind of traditional therapy, one-on-one psychotherapy that you would think of, or cognitive behavioral therapy. So that, the traditional therapist-client role. The other half of my time I spent in an agency that provided housing and mental health support to people who were clinically unable, with clinical diagnoses of mental health issues that were so significant that they couldn't live on their own. So we provided, basic life skills support, housing support, and therapy for them where they resided. And so between those two worlds, as I was finishing up my master's degree, and I was finally going to graduate into this world that I always dreamed to be a part of as a therapist, I was stuck picking a path. I was stuck in my own head because something wasn't feeling right to me. And, when I was looking at the patients that I was seeing in the private practice, the majority of them had diagnoses of anxiety and depression, panic disorders, and basically the struggle that they had was difficulty living in their life, in their world, managing their feelings in the world that they were living in. But I also was looking at the clinicians who were working in this very intense field with the mentally ill, and they were struggling with the same thing, this feeling of overwhelm, never being enough. Their cups were empty. They were exhausted, and they had unfulfilled dreams of their own that they were unable to even focus on because they were running circles in this very stressful, high anxiety environment. And then that got me thinking about my girlfriends and my counterparts and my peers, and how there is this universal feeling of being super overeducated, overachieving, super successful people who are empty and lost and unhappy and miserable and anxious and not sleeping, and I just gotta and I just wanna. And I knew at that point I was gonna have to shift gears, because I operate from a very fundamental belief in my core that we are all born with a purpose in our soul, and it's unique to each one of us. It's as unique as our fingerprint. And when we live a life that is not aligned with our purpose, and if you don't know what your purpose is one of the things we do in coaching, we help you figure that out, and it's aligned with your talents. Your God-given talents are there for a reason too. We start to feel discomfort, and then the external things in our life take over, right? And then we start living from our head, all the shoulda, coulda, woulda, gotta do as soon as after, once the kids graduate, once this happens. We've forgotten how to breathe. We've forgotten how to plant our feet in the room and just look around and be present. And I don't think you're broken. There are definitely situations that require clinical interventions. And during an intake with any client, we will go through those things. There is a need and a space for therapy, and I am not providing therapy. I have walked out of that world, and I am coaching. So my job as a coach is we're going to say, okay, what goals do you have? What are the blocks that have prevented you from getting there before? And we're going to kind of excavate what this rub is, what this repeated pattern is coming from, where it's coming from. And then I have a whole tool bag of tricks that we can use, that you can try on, that will help you get from fine, that awful F word fine, to fantastic, to thriving. And that's where my passion is, and that's where my goals are for you. And so if that aligns with something that you might be looking for, I ask you to go ahead, click around, check out some of the other videos, or you can reach out to me and we can set up an interview and see if what I have to offer is something that you might be interested in. Okay, bye.